This month I've been looking at the coach-client relationship, and in my blog I look at how the coach creates the space in which the client feels supported and yet sufficiently challenged to explore their coaching goals. But there's often a third person in a business coaching or an exec coaching situation, and that's a sponsor. And that's because typically in business coaching, the coaching is funded by the client's organisation, and the sponsor is there to feed into the process, but also to ensure that the coaching gives a return on investment for the organisation. And so the coach has to manage two relationships, the relationship with the client, but also the relationship with the coach. And it's one of the key differences between business coaching and typically life coaching, for example, where often there's only a client and a coach involved. So how does the coach manage the relationship, this three-way relationship between the three parties? Because one thing they've got to do is they've got to still maintain client-coach confidentiality between them and the client, and yet still involve the sponsor sufficiently so that they can understand the return on investment and understand the journey that the client is on. So classically what we do is we will meet as a three-way, and we will agree the coaching objectives for the clients up front, and we do that as contracting, and at that same time we will discuss what is and isn't out of scope, and we'll make sure that everybody's aware of that client-coach confidentiality, and then we're ready to start coaching. And typically then it makes sense to have a midpoint review so that the sponsor and the coach and the client come together. And the coach says very little, just facilitates the meeting so they don't inadvertently breach confidentiality. The client talks about what they're getting from coaching and how it's helped them to date. And the sponsor, if appropriate, can say anything, share any observations they've seen whilst the client's been on their coaching journey. It also allows you to check in on the coaching goals and see if anything needs changed for the second half of coaching in the event that there's a requirement to do so. You then formally close coaching, again with all three parties present, again with the coach saying very little, and again the client talking about what their experience has been of coaching and what they're going to take away from it, and the sponsor again being able to share their reflections. So that's how, as a coach, you manage that three-way relationship that's quite typical in the business coaching environment. And I thought it was just worth sharing because it's the kind of add-on to the client-coach relationship that I discuss in my blog. So if you've got any questions about relationships in a business coaching environment, then please do get in touch. I'll be delighted to answer them.